Do you like movies and games also? This and so much more, they all know. Vyse, Pyro, Lotus, and friends, welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 27. I'm your host, VyseTheBold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
PyroJackFrost.
And OldManStompy.
Yeah, frequent special guest. It seems even trivial to call you a special guest nowadays, since you've done so many of these.
I'm not special anymore.
You never were special.
Yeah. But, yeah, we're glad to have you back, and I did want to do a short personal segment from each of us, because that is what the podcast is centered around. So, Pyro, go right ahead.
All right, I'm going to start off and say that I actually beat 2 games this week.
Oh, man.
So it's surprising. One of them was actually not this week. It was kind of last week before MagFest, but we haven't talked about it since then, so I'm going to say it was this week. I beat Shantae. It kind of powered through it because I was getting, like I talked about it last time, it gets kind of repetitive. It's still kind of fun, and it's really weird. Like, the last level has this huge difficulty jump. It was surprising, and it was kind of annoying, but I finished it. I don't think I'm going to go back to it, just because there was nothing. I don't feel like I'm missing anything by not playing it again. But that actually brings me to an interesting point, because I also beat Bloodborne today, actually.
Good for you.
Nice.
Like,
nice.
right
What
before.
ending did you go for? Like the completionist ending?
So I cheated and got all 3 of them.
Oh wow! Okay.
I saved my data onto a USB drive.
Aha.
Then I beat it. Then I copied the old save data back onto my system. Then I got the second ending to get the trophy. Then I copied it back over to get the last ending. So I got all 3 of them. But what I was trying to say with Shantae is I beat it and I'm done with it. But when I beat Bloodborne, I get that usual feeling that I have when I beat a game where I'm like, I don't want it to be over. Like, I know Bloodborne is never over. You can keep playing that forever. But it's like I get this empty feeling where it's like I spent so much time playing this, and now it feels weird not being able to play it or not playing it. But I didn't get that with Shantae at all. But yeah, Bloodborne was cool. I really enjoyed it. I'm actually proud of myself because it's the first Souls game that I actually beat.
And it's a tough one, too.
I think I liked it more, though, because it was more fast-paced. I think I might go back to it and try some of the Chalice dungeons. But the thing that really annoys me is I'm missing 4 trophies. One of them I can only get if I get halfway through New Game Plus, basically, because there's items that I need to pick up that I didn't pick up the
Souls
first time
games do
through.
that a lot, yeah. Like, Dark Souls requires a minimum, I think, of 2 full playthroughs and half of a third. Demon Souls, if you don't use the item dupe glitch, requires a ridiculous 5 playthroughs, because there's one boss who gives you an item that can be turned into 5 different things. It's insane.
Well, I mean, technically, using my save scumming for the ending trophies, I could have done it in one playthrough if I wanted to, but there's items in areas you get to halfway through that I didn't pick up the first time because I forgot all about them.
Okay.
And I now have to get back to that area to pick them up. The other 3 trophies I can just get from doing the Chalice dungeons, which they don't get harder with the New Game Plus, whereas the normal game does get harder.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Did you do the DLC as well?
I didn't.
Okay.
I might pick. The thing is, the same feeling that I had with getting halfway through the game again is I know it's harder, and I know I have other games to play. If the DLC gets harder with New Game Plus, just like the normal game, then I probably won't do it just because I kind of want to. I might come back to it.
I will throw this
I'm
one at
moving
you. I will throw this one at you regarding the DLC. I've seen a bunch of the DLC, including the final boss, and when we were at MagFest, when we had some downtime, our friend Luminaire was quite sick even during MagFest, so he was kind of just watching a bunch of YouTube in the hotel room for a while to recuperate, and one of the things he was showing me was top 10 or top 15 or whatever, or maybe it was just every boss ranked. The boss of Bloodborne's DLC was considered by vote among this YouTuber's fans to be the hardest boss across the entire Souls series. So
Wow.
have fun. I've seen the fight. That fight is freaking stupid, man. You have to get so good. It's ridiculous.
But like, didn't some guy beat it just with like the regular punch over the?
Oh no,
no,
that always happens. You can get talented enough, but like when you're just going in and you don't know what to expect, you are going to get destroyed. Like that fight is just like hilarious. So like I kind of want to see you play that just to see how you react, because that guy is so angry and he wants you dead so badly, and it's gonna happen like many times.
What I like about these games is that you can be talented enough to basically beat it in any way.
Yeah, the games are skill based, and you can exploit invincibility frames during dodging. You can always beat the bosses with basic attacks and everything, but you have to get that good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I will come back to it probably to either get the platinum and or play the old Hunters DLC.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like for now, since I've been playing it for like 60 hours, I kind of want to move on to something else.
I don't blame you.
Tomorrow I'm probably going to be watching Kingsglaive, and I borrowed Final Fantasy 15 from someone, so that's probably going to be the next game that I start playing.
You can also watch the anime as well on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll probably watch that sometime. But with Bloodborne, it was kind of funny because after I beat it, I wasn't actually done with it. My girlfriend was watching a TV show, and I was just sitting there looking up Bloodborne lore, like explaining everything that was going on. And I'm like, so I did that for like another hour or two after I beat the game.
The lore in those games is just so fascinating. It's so
so there's a lot of subtlety. Not only what items are, but even their placement can tell you.
You have to pay attention to everything. Yeah.
Like I mean, like on a basic level, you'll see like an area where you fight a dragon boss, and there's a bunch of dead bodies with like items that all say legendary souls, so you can tell what happened here. You know, like stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But you'll see that stuff with like armor sets and things like that. There's a lot that can be gleaned if you try.
And even like the Hunter's Workshop, like, and what you find there, points to certain things as well. So it's really interesting. I really like the subtle storytelling in that game, and honestly, I think video games work best when they have subtle storytelling like that.
And don't require you to watch 3 anime and a movie to get the story.
No, but not even that. Like even stuff with cutscenes, like it appeals to everybody. If you care about the story, then go pursue it. And if all you want to do is just the awesome gameplay, then you can do that too. You can go through all of Bloodborne and not understand any of the story, and it doesn't have to matter.
And the thing that's really cool is you play it and it makes you want to know what's going on.
Yeah, but I mean, you don't have to worry about like character interaction and why am I doing this. It's like you're a hunter, go hunt. You're like, okay, you know that's all you really need.
But I mean, even with Final Fantasy 15, like the core of the story is that you're on a road trip with 4 guys.
Yeah,
you don't need to know very much about the lore to like learn about how they really care about each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then I've heard at the end of the game they just throw things at you that you only understand if you've watched the movie.
That's fair. I mean, there is, I will say, in the early part of the game, something that seems like a dump of scenes from the movie, but it doesn't diminish from the gameplay. You know, which learning about these 4 guys and how they interact with one another is an emergent phenomenon.
Okay. So yeah, that was my week. Bloodborne. And more Bloodborne, and then a little bit of Shantae.
All right.
So, Lotus, what about you?
Take us away.
Well, I also have 2 video games to mention. I had said in a previous cast, maybe even 2 at this point, that I'd been playing some Doom 2016, I guess, and I've definitely been enjoying it so far. And I recently got the BFG 9000. Oh yes. And also finally fought the Cyber Demon, and man, that thing was no joke. It was really entertaining to see one of the most iconic bosses in Doom back, and
it's a great boss
in
battle,
such a way that's like, yeah, not only is it like this isn't your daddy's Doom Cyber Demon, but not only that, but it challenges you from a gameplay perspective, even within the context of Doom 2016, because at this point you're very used to running and gunning in like sort of circular manners. Because you really can't afford to stand still in Doom 2016 ever.
No.
But the Cyber Demon starts like doing weird stuff that you don't expect. I mean, Vyse, of course, already knows all about
incorporate platforming into and like he limits.
Well, it's interesting.
He limits your movement. Let's just
it's interesting because there's platforming when you don't actually have platforms. Like there are 2 main things that he does. that subvert expectations. Of course he shoots rockets at you, how could he not? But he has a bit where he restricts your movement and then shoots a low, high, low attack at you. So you actually have to jump and duck like you're playing like a 2D game. And there's another attack he has later where he shoots a million rockets all over the place that vertically, and they land on the ground. And it does something you would only see in like a third-person game where targets light up all over the ground and you're not supposed to stand there, and dodge the falling projectile. And it's just like, in a first-person shooter, that may not be a first, but you don't see that often. It's crazy. So the Cyber Demon fight was a lot of fun. I eventually was able to take down that part of the fight with pretty much just the Gauss gun. I had to just keep fighting, keep my distance, and whenever he would restrict my movement, I would hit him once with like the siege mode attack just for some extra damage, and finally wore down. But it took a bunch of deaths. I've died
playing
during
on Hurt Me Plenty or?
Oh, I'm on Hurt Me Plenty. Okay. I've died to random enemies before, in really crazy battles that kind of just never end, and eventually they wear me down. But I've never died over and over at a particular part of Doom 2016 until the Cyber Demon. This guy was no joke. So
it's a fun battle.
It was definitely a lot of fun. And I'm moving right along. I'm on level 10 or 11 at this point, and I think there are 13 levels in total. So I look forward to doing that. And by the way, in Doom 2016, you could unlock a bunch of classic Doom maps just for nostalgia. But what's interesting about those maps is that you play them as the new Doom guy, and the enemies are all new iterations of their former selves. So you're playing in the old pixely levels with the old MIDI music, but you have Doom 2016 enemy analogs. So like zombie men, shotgun guys are replaced with the possessed soldiers. And by the way, in old Doom, you could have like 100 of those guys, but you could pretty much mow them down, and they were very basic. All of the shotgun guys get hurt at close range. But replacing them with possessed soldiers actually makes what should be easy levels kind of scary, because those guys are pretty relentless with their attacks. Same goes with the Pinky Demons. Even one of them in a classic Doom map can really ruin your day, because the Pinky Demons you have to hit from behind to do really anything to them at all.
Two of them are a pain in the butt.
Yeah, two of them are scary. And they used to be joke enemies. You would just hold the chainsaw button down and you're done. But Pinkies are actually threats in Doom 2016. By the way, can I mention that I freaking love that they're called Pinkies? Because this was something... Yeah. I guess everybody did this. It wasn't just me. But back when my dad and I would play this in 1990, 3 or 4, we called them Pinkies, and that was not their name. In the instruction manual, they're called demons. It's the most generic name you can have.
Well, and by the way, the funny thing is they're labeled that in the game's code, though. If you
oh, are they? Because I knew they were in Doom 3.
That.
Okay, I knew they were in Doom 3. But speaking of which, Doom 2016 actually gives a nod to that in the codex entry for the Pinky, which says, they have no name in hell or whatever. I was like, nice. So they're just, the generic demon.
Yeah, that's actually how anybody has any of the names for any of the enemies in Half-Life. Like head crabs and things like that. That all comes from the console commands and stuff like that.
Okay.
So that's why anybody that's why Doom Guy is called Doom Guy, because that's how he's sprite labeled.
Not Flynn Taggart.
You'll have to explain that joke.
He's the name given in the Doom novels, and yes, they exist. There are 4 of them.
Which 3 of which you got for Christmas from MagFest.
Yeah.
From our Secret Santa.
Yeah, those are rocking. Yeah. The other thing I was going to say was regarding the classic Doom maps, because Doom 2016 enemies are scarier than their old-style counterparts, level 8 of map 1, the last level of the shareware version of Doom, or episode 1, Phobos Anomaly with 2 Barons of Hell, that's actually a scary fight, when it otherwise is basically just fighting imps that are, have more HP. So it's actually a pretty brutal fight. And by the way, if you play... They don't do this for the classic maps, but if you were to play Phobos Anomaly on the harder difficulties in classic Doom, you would have to fight a bunch of invisible Pinkies, the Spectre enemies as well. Thank God they didn't do that, because that would have just been a murder level. And the only other thing I did was I tried the Tower of Babel, which is episode 2, map 8, which is the level where you fight nothing but the Cyber Demon. And yeah, it's a Doom 2016 Cyber Demon fight, so that went about as well as you'd expect for someone who didn't quite see that coming. I was like, maybe they tweaked that one enemy and didn't make it like, you know, a video game boss fight. No, he still has his low, high, low attack. I'm like, are you kidding me with this? He just kicked my ass. The other game I played is a game I actually started recently. We've given hints about this on previous podcasts, but I've played a bunch of the Yakuza games, and OldManStompy, you have too, right?
I have played Yakuza 1 and 2, and I'm on about halfway through 3.
Okay, yeah, 3 is really good.
That's great.
Yeah, at this point I've played 1 through 4, and I finally started the spin-off, Dead Souls, which is... I heard it was made more for American audiences, and that makes sense, but it's basically a zombie shooter. There's... In the old Yakuza games, you would walk down the street, and every once in a while, some punk-looking guy would run up to you and go like, "Hey, man," and then you would get into a fight. And we'd go to a fight screen, and you get all these really cool melee moves and grapples and everything. There's none of that here. Ironically, the town in Yakuza is the best it's ever been in the places that aren't zombie-infested. There's just no random fights. Like, crime is gone. The problem is, in the quarantine zones... It's just established that you're going to be fighting zombies, and they attack you like regular zombies. You know, they kind of shamble around, and some of them might run toward you, and combat is almost entirely shooting, except for basic kicks to kind of boot them away from you, or like shoulder rams for the same reason, but you really should be shooting. And to make the game not broken, your basic weapon has infinite ammo, at least for the first character, because like Yakuza 4, you play as 4 different characters across the game. So I've started with Akiyama, who's the first guy you play as in Yakuza 4. He's primarily a kicker guy, but in Dead Souls, he's more of a finesse guy with... so I guess that still holds up. He's more of a finesse guy with 2 pistols. You can play as 3 other characters, and I already know who they are because the box, I think, tells you, and also when you install the game, like the installation screen does the same thing Yakuza 4 did, and it shows you all the characters you'll be playing as. So you could actually play as Majima for the first time, and he's more of a machine gunner. And then the third character was hilarious because he's the big bad in Yakuza 2, Goda Ryuji, and for no explainable reason, he has a robot right arm now, which turns into a machine gun. It's like, what?
It seemed like this universe's version of like Stroheim from
yeah, almost. Like Mr. Ryu told, yeah, like Mr. Ryu. Well, that'd be Wild Dog. But like Mr. Ryu 45 told me that Dead Souls is ironically the goofiest Yakuza game. And then finally you play as Kiryu, and I don't know what weapon he has. Well, it's kind of a joke
game to begin with. It doesn't happen in continuity and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, but I figured like hardcore zombie mode, but like it's actually pretty silly. Like there's stuff you can do. Like there are stores in the quarantine zone that are obviously not running because zombies. But if you go up to them, they'll be like, "Oh my God, there's still people in here. Help us! The zombies are holding us down." So when you kill all the zombies, they go like, "Oh, cool! Now we can run a business," and you can just go into like the gelateria and order gelato, like it's a regular, like you're still in town. It's like,
you know, they were like,
how many
really
customers do you expect to have?
Gelato, if only these zombies weren't in the way.
That's the thing. Like you could go into like some of the like. I haven't gotten this far yet, but I think you could do some of the other kinds of stuff too, like the arcade. And it's like, why are you still running your business? Who do you expect to come in, like, other than me? There's actually, well, no, one more thing, Vyse. Like, there's one more thing that cracked me up, which was one of the movies you unlock just when you install the game. It's just a movie of Kiryu opening a door into a hostess club, and all of a sudden, the guy behind the desk, one of the hostesses, and like 100 guys just pull guns on him, and he just kind of stares. And then all of a sudden, the guy behind the counter pulls up his gun. He's like, "Oh my God, I'm really sorry, sir. You're a human after all." And then he just calls to the back room like, "Hey, we got a party of one." And then you just hear like in the background like, "Man, this guy must really like hostess clubs." And you see like a sign that says like "No zombies." And it's like, seriously, like, what are you doing? Why are you like? Even in the regular Yakuza games, you don't have time for this bullshit. Like, there's a bomb about to blow up Kamurocho in Yakuza 2, but, like, now the zombie apocalypse is happening, and these guys are still running a business, and you're still patronizing it. It's what? It's really funny.
What I find really funny is also like the Japanese title of the game is also really funny. I think on purpose. It's like Yakuza
Rise of the Dragon?
Of the End.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, for Dead Souls, yeah, it's of the
like
end.
They know how goofy that sounds. You can't tell me they don't. And like the most fascinating thing about this game was actually like I think the fan reaction to the teaser that they put out for this game. Do you guys remember this?
No, not really. I just remember that it was going to be a zombie game. We were like, what?
Okay, so before they revealed that it was a zombie game, they kind of had a teaser that indicated that it was going to be a new Yakuza game, but that the world was going through an apocalypse of some sort. Okay. But they didn't reveal that it was a zombie game. So people were theorizing that it was going to be like the best story that Yakuza ever told by having like a situation like kind of like like a natural disaster like the tidal wave that hit
nope
and that the like a lot of the Yakuza pride themselves in that they take care of their community despite their lawlessness. I've heard care about where they live.
Like worked alongside cops to like repair natural disaster damage for like a day.
Correct. They do a lot of philanthropy. Like it may seem odd that they're exploiting their people but also helping them a lot. But they have like a code about it. People that aren't involved in the Yakuza, they understand that they don't want to hurt them. They want to help their community. Yeah. So they kind of protect it. It's kind of like a weird. You kind of get that feeling from Godfather 2.
It's called organized crime for a reason. It just has its own structure, which is divergent from what we think of as standard society.
Yeah, exactly. But they have their own code. Is my point. And they have their own values, and one of them is taking care of their community. And people were theorizing that like the Yakuza were basically going to be holding a like disaster-stricken Tokyo together, and like that
would have been amazing.
And being like the savior of Tokyo, kind of like in what happens in Akira if you ever read the manga. So like it's and then they just reveal that it's kind of like a goofy zombie game. It's just like guys, you could have done something amazing, narratively, and you didn't.
It'd be really funny. Like, there's no possible way it's gonna work this way, but it would be kind of funny if Yakuza 5 like followed Dead Souls. Like, remember that time we had a zombie apocalypse? Like, it would just be amusing to see Dead Souls play into the continuity, even though that's like the dumbest thing ever. Especially because with certain characters, it just wouldn't make sense. By the way, one more thing regarding Majima is he started out as just like a total loon, like a terrifying nut in Yakuza 1. Still pretty terrifying in Yakuza 2, but he gets more sober as the series progresses. But like the basic description of his character, I haven't seen him yet, I have not played much of Dead Souls, but the basic description of his character in Dead Souls was that when somebody informed him that there was a zombie apocalypse in Kamurocho, he just started laughing hysterically, and this is like the best thing that's ever happened to him, because now he just gets to machine gun like everybody with no consequence. It's like, yes. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, those are my games that I got into. So how about you, OldManStompy?
So I didn't play too many games recently. I also, like Pyro, beat Shantae Half Genie Hero, and I have basically nothing to add. His opinions are well expressed. I also have no desire to play the game a second time.
Did you agree that the last stage was a lot more difficult than the rest of the stages? Not a lot, but like more difficult.
I mean, I didn't like particularly struggle on it. I played it on the Vita. What did you play it on?
I played on PC.
Okay, I've noticed like when we all played Jetpack Joyride for a short period of time, that sometimes like those like odd platforming segments are easier to manage when you can see the whole screen very easily, like within a small like parallax angle of your eyes.
That last running stage, like when you're running from the lava and jumping, like I got really annoyed with that.
Oh, I did not have any problems with that stage.
All right, well I guess I suck at games.
I can only assume that you're terrible at it.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Get good, son.
Anyway, in other news, I purchased Afterbirth Plus, the last expansion of Binding of Isaac, but I didn't really play it because it really feels like that they were still programming the game all the way up to the deadline they set for themselves, and they're still balancing the game. I just like to tell one short story to give you an idea of what the game environment is like right now.
Oh, but
so
by
one
the way,
thing they added were enemy.
Real quick, did you see that they're releasing it on the Switch? I was actually really floored by that.
I am impressed they're releasing it on the Switch. They could barely get it to run. They could barely get it to run the base version of the game on 3DS. They couldn't get the Afterbirth to run on 3DS or Vita at all. So
I'm excited
to have Afterbirth Plus on the Switch. I am impressed, but also skeptical.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, we'll see. Like I said, the 3DS version was sort of notorious for being one of the worst versions of the game and being like really susceptible to crashes. So I don't necessarily believe that just because they said they can get it on the Switch, that means it will be in a perfectly running state.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so one of the additions they have are enemy spawning portals, which have never been in the game before.
Yeah, those are
there are
awful.
enemies that spawn other enemies, but now they're also just plain portals that spawn enemies. And there are also a bunch of new rooms. So one of the new rooms is on the Womb, which is like the 7th or 8th level. And one of the new rooms you can encounter are 8 at the same time of the Blastocyst boss, which is a boss that splits into other smaller bosses. Not only that, but like they have this weird sliding effect where when they split up, they like slide across each other, so the sprites aren't on top of each other.
Yeah.
Meaning that the room fills like ridiculously quickly with little Blastocysts.
I've never encountered that, thank God.
Wow.
And so we were told via Twitter that this was a bug and that it wasn't supposed to be 8 full-size Blastocysts. It was supposed to be 8 little tiny Blastocysts, and someone just put the wrong value in when programming the room. So there was a patch released like the next day, and the room was exactly the same, except it also had an enemy portal in the middle.
Nice.
So
I have noticed every 2 or 3 days there's been like downloadable updates, so it's like, okay.
Yeah. So I'd like to table that game for a little bit until the chaos settles.
Unless you're doing that on
like
purpose
fun.
just to mess with all of you.
I still think one of the worst rooms I've ever entered was just 4 Polycephalus, the kind that burrows underground and then vomits. Like I hate that enemy so much. Oh, by the way, do you know the little horn boss?
Yes.
He's like that. Yeah, for the listeners who may not know, he's the guy who like produces a sort of hole in the ground, goes into it, comes out somewhere else, occasionally shoots like a homing shot at you, and is more frustrating to kill than to actually worry about surviving. He's not that big of a deal. He's more of a runaway kind of boss. There's a new boss, Bighorn. He's brutal. First of all, he's gigantic. When he comes out of his like gigantic hole in the ground, you only get like kind of the upper half of his head. He's never fully out of the ground. So he comes out and he may or may not do something. And when he goes back under, 2 holes will show up, and then his hands will come out and either try slapping at you or like throwing bombs. And it's way more frustrating than it sounds because they cover a lot of ground, and he has lots of HP. So it's interesting to see that there is in fact a Bighorn to the little horn, but you don't want to actually deal with them.
Yeah, there are about 4 new bosses in the game. They're all very difficult on that caliber, and they're also, with one exception, really badly animated. So the expansion needs some polish, and hopefully it will come soon.
When you say that, do you mean 4 new difficult bosses, or there are 4 new bosses, period, and they are difficult?
I mean there are 4 new bosses, period.
Okay, because like
they're very hard.
I've only seen 2 of the new bosses, Bighorn and Sisters Vyse, and they're actually not bad. You know that boss? I think it's the Gate, the guy who like can ground pound and send shockwaves everywhere and then rolls.
You're thinking of the Cage.
Oh, the Cage.
Sisters
Excuse
Vyse,
me.
They have a lot of HP. That's really the problem.
Yeah, but they're not really a threat. The main thing you have to worry about is don't target just one of them, because when one dies, the other gets way faster. But if you fight them both at the same time, they're not really a threat unless you're in a small room. Just like the Gate or the Cage rolls much faster than they do. So just kind of calmly sidestep out of the way and then just take them down about equally.
Well, like I said, I like to revisit this after the dust is settled and things have been rebalanced. I will say that the game feels a little bit difficult, just because, we've played the base game for hundreds of hours, both of us, among other people on the internet. We've sort of memorized all the boss patterns. So that all feels very easy, even if it's very hard. So to have the new stuff dropped on top of us is a bit of a shock.
Bighorn, I still have to learn.
So, we'll see, in a few weeks after I've had some opportunities to do some runs in the new game, how it goes.
Yeah, a bunch of cool new power-ups as well.
Otherwise, my wife got Bloodborne, so I've heard a lot about it from Pyro, and I'm excited to start because she's playing Dark Souls 3 right now. So
I still need to beat Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, I'll probably start to play Bloodborne in parallel. Yeah, so it's sort of the opposite of Pyro. Other than that, as I said, I just moved back from the Chicago area to the New Jersey area. I drove starting from about 8 o'clock last night, and I arrived at about 11 o'clock this morning.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
So I will say that that's a pretty good drive. Along that interstate, there's basically nothing whatsoever between Chicago and Philadelphia, so it's a very fast trip.
Well, that's good.
Except for rest stops that are open 24/7.
So. What main interstate do you take?
That's Route 80 onto 76 through Pennsylvania.
Gotcha.
Okay.
If you're ever heading out to Chicago, that's a pretty easy drive.
And that goes to parallel with the PA Turnpike, right?
It is the Pennsylvania Turnpike.
Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah.
So yes, it is parallel. Can a line be parallel to itself?
I doubt it.
We did
on the Z-axis.
Special guest. Yes. Okay. So this is important to me because I don't talk very much about this, but up until about I was 32, which is only a couple of years ago, the thought of driving gave me panic attacks on anything longer than like a local road. So the fact
nice.
that in February, I bought my own car, and now I put 12,000 miles on it. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this right now because it is a personal story and it can take a long time. But to me, this is like a significant personal triumph to have completed a road trip all the way to Chicago, to live out there, to know that my wife and I, needed this car to survive in the suburbs of Chicago, and to overcome that fear, to live out there and to come all the way back. It's sort of like completing this chapter and putting all that behind me.
I'm really happy for
congratulations.
You in that regard, because I knew you struggled with that in your younger life, and I kind of forgot about it because you've dealt with it well for so long.
Well, it was more like I was able to avoid it as much as possible because my wife, when we were dating, she lived in Manhattan, which has one of the most comprehensive public transit systems in America.
It's probably the best.
I lived in Geneva, and the Swiss have one of the best public transport systems in the world. So I was able to dodge the problem for a few years, but it was definitely affecting my work, because I worked out at the Large Hadron Collider. And the actual installation that we worked at was in the middle of nowhere, not serviced by public transportation in some tiny French village, like 30 minutes away from the installation. And it was preventing me from really taking interesting jobs servicing the machine, because I didn't want to admit to people that I would hyperventilate every time I got into a car. So, I've changed jobs, and this is a fresh start for me, not having that burden to deal with.
That's really great, and I think that is a great thing that you shared here with the audience and me.
I hope that other people out there who have to deal with anxiety, I'm 34. It's never too late to if you hopefully you have the support to try to make these positive moves in your life. And like Vyse says, it's about the process, and it can be a journey.
Yeah, and having said that, I have my own struggles, and I'm really glad that you came forward and shared that, because I think that personal triumphs is part of what makes Corrective Consciousness great, and it fits right in. And I really wish you well with it. And personal progress is very important to me, so I'm glad that you were able to make some yourself.
Yep. Sort of pushing that aside, thank you again for the kind words. The only other thing I had is that we didn't really talk about this, but last week was AGDQ.
Yeah.
On a positive note.
Yeah, great.
Which is one of my favorite events in gaming, period. Just watching people dismantle games.
It's so
makes
fun.
me feel like a terrible gamer because they're all amazing.
So fantastic at it, yeah.
I would say that my personal favorite run, and one of my wife's favorites, because we watched it, or I listened to it anyway, on the drive back from Chicago, was the Super Monkey Ball runs.
Oh, neat.
Those are really good.
Super Monkey Ball is already like one of the most anus-clenchingly tense games that you can play because you're always teetering on this tightrope and worried about falling off and trying to struggle with the GameCube or whatever system you're playing on. Controls.
And you're twitching the whole time while you're playing it.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
brutal.
And so
yeah.
watching people speedrun the game, and they just like fling the ball off the stage at some random angle, which just happens to be precisely correct, that they just like fall straight through the goalpost like several levels down.
Yep.
Is to me just like, I can't stand watching it. It's almost too much for me. Like I have flashbacks.
I love that series so much that I think I would have really loved watching that.
Oh, you should. Like you'd be surprised just like how like simple they make some of these stages look.
Mm-hmm. It makes you mad almost, because it's just like, man, I sunk hours into like these single levels, and they can just like do something that looks effortless, even though it took them.
Oh, they took hundreds of hours,
and months.
Like these are people who like Twitch stream their attempts. Yeah. So like they have their own memes within their own communities about like, oh, don't make that mistake again. That's the mistake that always gets you. They've been playing the same game over and over again for freaking ever, and that's why they're so good.
Yeah, it's kind of like Tony Hawk doing like the 900. It's just like, man, like you have no idea what he had to do to go to get that done,
Yeah. So I would ask if anybody else watched the marathon and if they had any other sort of favorite segments from this year's. I believe they raised $2 million for the Permanent Cancer.
Yeah, I think they just broke it. Yeah.
So good for them.
I think they outdo themselves like every year by at least a little bit.
Last year did not beat 2015.
Okay.
2015 was the record.
Okay.
So they were gunning for the 2015 record this year.
Oh, it's cool. They pulled it off. I haven't watched all of the runs, and I didn't see too terribly many live, but one run I always enjoy watching, even though it's long for a speed run, is I always enjoy just watching 100% runs of Super Mario Sunshine, because the movement in that game is absolutely insane. The amount of technical moves you could pull off in that game is more than even people who played the game may realize, with or without the FLUDD. Because there are also floodless runs, which is just blows my mind. But
I like watching the Splatoon ones because of that.
The Splatoon run from, I think, when did Splatoon come out? Was it 2016 or 15?
It was 15. Yeah.
So it might have been like Summer Games Done Quick of 2015, but like Tones Ballones, the guy who ran Splatoon, damn, like that was also a very technical run, just watching like proper movement optimization. It's kind of like that with Super Mario Sunshine, though. The way you're kicking off of walls and sliding and leaping and like doing like combinations into slides on your FLUDD, like it's like beauty in motion, or poetry in motion.
That is my favorite type of speedrun, the ones where they 100% complete the game and also don't usually heavily abuse glitches to achieve goals,
yeah,
but rather
me too.
Like a lot of technical and creative approaches.
Yeah, some of my least favorite runs to watch are stuff like Amnesia or Outlast, where they're always kind of walking outside the map and like all of a sudden it's just like, I'm at the exit, and you kind of...
Yeah, the Portal ones make me sick.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's impressive that they pulled it off, but I don't derive much pleasure from it. Like, my favorite kinds of speedruns are the kinds where you play the game 100% legitimately, just really fast. Like Ninja Gaiden or something. You're like, how are they that good? Are they exploiting glitches? No, they're just really damn good at Ninja Gaiden.
Nintendo games are really good for this because they tend to be really well programmed, so they tend to be more reliant on solid gameplay.
There might be like minor clipping, like with Mario games or something like that, but usually you just play the game.
Yeah, their
really
QA
well and
is
really
unusually
fast.
good. Their QA is unusually solid for a video game company, for sure.
I would also, not from this year, but I would also recommend watching the Tetris Grandmaster sequence from a couple of years ago, which might be the most disgusting display of game skill that I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, the beating the credits, because over the credits it gets even harder, and it comes to the point where you have basically invisible blocks. Like, you only see the outlines of the shape that you get, and when you put it down, it's completely 100% invisible. So you have to remember not only where everything is, but they're coming in at 1 billion miles per hour, so you still have to be able to flip at Mach speed and drop it where you want. And the fact that they're literally doing it blind is just mind-numbing.
So there's even more to it than that. The guy who did that run, Kevin DDR, is one of only, I think, 5 people in the world to ever achieve the Grandmaster rank on Tetris the Grandmaster 3. And the only American player to ever do it.
That's right.
It shortly after AGDQ, and it requires not only getting to the credits, which is hard enough unto itself, but also playing the credits and scoring 2 Tetrises while playing Invisible Tetris.
That's absurd.
And on top of that, the credits come in a random order, so you don't know how far you are.
I didn't know that. That's insane.
Except for the logo at the end, the credits are completely random on purpose.
That's so
you
scary.
Don't know how much time you have left.
Yeah, like
so
I really recommend.
You can't like blow some time. I guess either you just have to keep it up. Wow.
Well, I mean, honestly, you can't afford to do that anyway. It's more psychological warfare than like, oh, I can relax, because at the speed the blocks are coming, you really like. There's no time for relaxation anyway. Like, it really is faster than you would think the human mind could comprehend, but apparently not.
For people who have never seen Tetris the Grandmaster 3, on the highest levels of play, the blocks fall in one frame to the bottom. So you have to buffer your inputs on the joystick while they're being dispensed
in the queue. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, invisible blocks when they land.
You have to process the fact that you can hold a piece in the Grandmaster.
Yeah.
Usually a straight block to make Tetrises.
So, I just found this out, and it's now made me like twitch a little bit. So apparently, previously I had heard basically that there was no port of this game. It was just like an arcade game.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it on Xbox Live or something, or Dreamcast? Or...
So here's what's making me twitch. It was released only in Japan on the Xbox 360, and it's region locked. So that means you need a Japanese 360 in order to play it.
Good luck finding one of those.
Well, not only that, but like there are only like 3 or 4 other games that you would ever want it for. So like, like the best version of Tetris ever made, or at least the one that has the most prestige. You have to buy a whole system for, essentially, just for that, and maybe I'll get the first Otomadius if I ever made myself crazy enough to buy it. But
that's saying something funny. Coming from Vyse, that he has to make himself crazy enough to buy the next system.
Yeah, this is the guy who bought a Neo Geo.
This is the guy who just had a rant earlier today about how he has a 2 terabyte hard drive connected to his Wii so he can play more games. For no particular
struggle
reason.
Struggle is real. Yep. No, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah. Speaking of you in a nutshell, how about you, Vyse?
Okay, it's Vyse's turn.
Yeah.
I was going to say, this is the part where we ignore Vyse and go to questions.
Yes.
Speaking of stuff that I obsess over and make myself crazy and do, I am now getting into arcade joysticks because I'm getting into shmups again. And so, with Mr. Ryu's help, I selected a joystick that I want. And in fact, it looks like a lot of joysticks, or joystick love is becoming in vogue right now. Right now there are
That's
more...
gross.
Yeah. Right now there are more joystick options available for home use than any other time ever before. And most of them are highly customizable. And there are a lot of major companies. There are several. There's Razer, who also makes a lot of computer gaming hardware, particularly mice and keyboards. And there's also Hori, which has made joysticks for a very long time, has always made quality products for a long time. And there's Mad Catz, which is still they're like the official Capcom joysticks. And then there's also Kanba, who's a relatively new entrant to joysticks. They are a Chinese company that kind of emerged last generation and came out, and they're really high quality products, very, very well made. And they have now just stopped using their own buttons and have gone with the industry leader Sanwa, and have started making sticks stock with them, so people don't have to replace the buttons when they buy them. So Kanba is releasing 3 new joysticks for PS3 and PS4, and this is a huge triumph. They actually got official branding from Sony on their mid-level one, and even their box looks like the PS4's box. It's like that blue design that they have on all their official products.
Yeah.
It's really neat. It's their Obsidian joystick is their mid-level one. It's around $200. They also have a cheaper one that's maybe around like $130, and they have a super expensive one that's $300. So I got the mid-level one, and I did that because I also wanted it to be portable. Their high-level one is also really heavy. So this one I can actually like take to a convention pretty easily, and also I got a sale opportunity with, and it comes with a bag to go with it, like a stick bag. So it'll be easier to tote around. I'm really excited to get this Obsidian stick because I've been getting into shmups again a lot lately, especially because of the ones that I played at MagFest. I played Mushihime-sama Futari there quite a bit, and also Battle Corega. And I actually have been playing a lot more Mushihime-sama Futari. I've had it for a long time, but I never really put the time into it. I was able to know to 1cc up to the 3rd level. I was pretty proud of myself. So that means 1 crediting, which is the goal in these games. And so I was able to, because that's how you retain your score. Your score resets in these games when you continue. So therefore, you know, the rest of your run is pretty much ruined. So I'm excited to get the stick and play all these games that are coming out on Steam. And I'm even coming up with plans on how to come up with custom artwork for it, which is really neat. I actually decided that I wanted to put like a beehive motif on it, like with gold hexagons all over it. I saw actually a combo stick that had that kind of design, but I wanted to make it look better than the one that had it. Their low-level stick kind of has that design on it, but it didn't look right to me. I want to make it look better with a friend. So I'm really excited to do that. I even want to incorporate gold foil into it. So for anybody who doesn't know, there's actually like an association with bullets whizzing by and bees buzzing in Japan. It's the same onomatopoeia. So seeing as though I'm a big shmup fan, bees and bullets go really well in motifs. With that kind of thing. Dodonpachi actually uses this to great effect. That's why a lot of the items are bee-themed. So I want to make my stick bee-themed because I'm mainly going to be playing shmups with it instead of fighters. So I'm excited. I even got gold buttons and a gold ball top to go with it. So it's going to look sick. So I'm really excited about that. I also got my Neo Geo Mega finally, which is the consoleized MVS system, and I played Mark of the Wolves and Windjammers on it, and it looks incredible on my TV. I'm playing it via RGB on my FrameMeister, and I'm really excited to bring these around to the conventions that we go to and play these with you guys because it's so much fun. It's so cool finally seeing like real arcade hardware playing on my TV.
Oh, yeah.
I've never really experienced that before, and I don't have like a super gun or anything. So
next play Cyberlip.
Yeah, and I'm excited to do that. I mean, when I finally get the shell for my flash cart, as of right now, it's like it's just a board.
Yeah,
so I don't really want to stick it in the system quite yet. Mm-hmm. They're shipping out the shell for it relatively soon. So the people that ordered it, the first run people are getting it for free from the guys in Spain that made the flash cart. So they just need to finish the design. So I'm super excited to keep playing these games and get into the intricacies of the Neo Geo library. Having said that, that's pretty much all I had this week, but I also wanted to do my weigh-in, and I was excited to announce my weigh-in this week because I lost just over 4 pounds.
Oh, congratulations.
Nice.
Thank you. After kind of languishing in like a 1 or 2 pound difference and kind of circulating around the same numbers for a while, I finally made some progress. And especially with the holidays being over, it's going to be a lot easier. Mm-hmm. And also my schedule's changing at work. So I'm excited because hopefully with this momentum, I'll be able to get under 220, which has been a sticking point for me. So I hope to continue to make progress, and I think I will. I have a really great mindset for it right now, and I've also been cutting down on my coffee intake as well. I love coffee. I drink it all the time. OldManStompy is also a big lover of coffee. And I drink it black. I love the taste of it. I was drinking like 3 thermosfuls a day.
Wow.
Well, not like thermoses.
That's beyond even me.
Maybe not thermoses, but like, like travel cup size. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's a little bit more.
Three travel cup size. And
if you'd like to avoid kidney stones,
Oh, well, I had gallstones. That was fun. But I've actually cut myself down to 1, which is I've actually done that by drinking water anytime that I've craved coffee. So that's been working.
The Lotus Prince method of drinking, water only.
How are you doing on sweets? I remember a few podcasts ago you mentioned that you had a problem, like grabbing like chewing gum and sweets and stuff while you were at work.
Yeah, that's actually astute of you. I actually have been doing the same thing when I crave sweets. I've actually been drinking water instead.
That's great. You're supposed to drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
So I attribute my weight loss there also to the way that I've been handling it. Is I've just been drinking water every time I want to either eat mince or something like that, or also drink coffee, and I think it's been overall a lot better. Unfortunately, my health otherwise is not very good because I have the con plague. But
yep, ditto.
But I'm proud of what I've done this week, and I look forward to. I think this first half of the year is going to be a lot of progress, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Having said that, we can move on to a question.
Yeah, we might actually have time for 2 because both of these I think can be answered quickly.
Okay.
The first one is from Insane Buffoon. If you could wipe your memory of a game, movie, anime, manga, something, and re-experience it for the first time again, what would you pick and why? That's a tough one, honestly.
I guess I'll go first since I already prepared an answer.
Yeah.
For the question before. So I would pick the Zero Escape series.
Oh.
I thought the series in general was very clever. I think that the writer, his name escapes me right now, but he's sort of notorious for using the perspective of the player character to hide information from the player while telling a story. And it plays into the twists of all the games. To the point where if you've played all of his works, the last game in the Zero Escape trilogy, Zero Time Dilemma, came out, I think, in June of this year. And it was a third-person game. So it made players really paranoid because for the first time you actually got to see all the people face-to-face, And it made you wonder, what was he hiding, making this a third-person perspective game when all the previous games, all of his previous works were first-person games. And it was also, like, I had not really gotten into the series until 999, the first game, had been out for quite some time. And I would like to have started over again, fresh, without really knowing a lot about the games and the twists contained within. I thought they were an interesting example of how to use the mechanics of video games themselves as a storytelling aspect. And I would love to experience that a second time. I'm actually considering doing it as a Let's Play series so that I can share it with other people, and I think Lotus is too, since they're coming out on Steam soon.
Yeah, and
really
also on PS4, I believe.
Yep. So
super hyped about that.
I'd be happy to do that as a co-op project.
That would be great. I would love to do that.
Area again.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. I would love to do that.
Awesome. Really
Because
cool.
like these kinds of games, honestly, I mean, I don't know how. I'm assuming Zero Escape is like about as dialogue intensive as Danganronpa is.
I think it's made by the same people.
Yeah, so in that case, honestly, I feel that, like, I've mentioned this before in my own personal Q&A that I put up relatively recently, that, like, I feel that a lot of what made the Danganronpa Let's Play work was the fact that it was co-op, not only because of diversity in voices, but also the fact that we had stuff to play off of each other because it was a mystery game. So
and otherwise it would just be, like, a lot of reading text.
There would be a lot! So, with Zero Escape, like, I haven't played them, but I assume that it would be a similar case.
Yeah, I mean, there's a character in the first Zero Skate game I think will be perfect for your Byakuya voice.
Oh, sweet. My condescending, like, Baldur's Gate 1 inspired NPC character. Away with you, beggar.
Yep.
All right.
That's it. Thanks.
So I don't know. I don't like. I haven't put a ton of thought into this, but regarding experiencing story again, for me, on more of an emotional level, I think I might go with Valkyria Chronicles because, you know, I think I might have said something like this before, but a lot of times when someone goes, "What's your favorite game?" You know, it's probably going to be some game I played as a kid or something, because it's like, oh, it really impacted me when, you know, I was at a maturing age, and so it kind of like settled itself into my brain, like Super Mario RPG or something. Like, that'll be with me forever. So it's very rare for me to be wowed that hard by like a much newer game, just because I'm thinking about them less as, you know, fun that I'm having, and more of like, I'm going to go to the store and buy myself a video game. This isn't something like that magically fell into my lap because my parents picked it up or something like that, you know? So, like, you know, I'm an adult, I buy my video games. So, like, the fact that I was, like, impacted that much by a new game, like, new relatively speaking, it's PS3, it definitely meant a lot to me. So I would love to play through the game again. The gameplay was pretty good, and it could get potentially frustrating when you're trying to worry about enemies dodging your shots, because that's, like, that's a dice roll. They might just dodge, you know, your accuracy is kind of irrelevant sometimes, but the story is just, it was really captivating to me, so I wouldn't mind experiencing some of the twists and turns there. Not that it's a mystery game or anything, but some of just how it plays out for a second time, for a first time, for a second time.
For me, I would probably say that playing something like Portal again is not quite the same once you've already played it, especially since there's so many twists and turns in the storyline, and also like the nature of the game is that it's a puzzle. So like if you already know if you kind of remember some of the beats, it's not quite the same. You don't have quite the aha moment when you replay it. Even though those games are plenty fun to play a second time around, it's not the same. You know, it's kind of like solving a puzzle. Again, the same. You've built up the tools in order to that the game's already taught you in order to beat it. So like, what's fun about those games is that they help you think in a different way, and then give you new language to look at things. Right. Same thing with Half-Life 2. I mean, playing that game felt so epic when I was playing it the first time. Especially with the way that I played it. I played it with a surround sound system, and I actually still don't play games with a surround sound system. It's just that game I had access to one at the time,
and you know what?
It was fantastic.
Even the first second you turn on the game, seeing the G-Man in HD for the first time just blows you away. It's just like, oh my god, like here it comes.
But I would have to say, in terms of plot, Oddworld Stranger's Wrath is my choice. It has one of the best transitions in terms of, like, it has a transition that changes the way the game plays, and for a long bit of it too, and it's one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. And right now the game is a lot easier to find than it used to be. Like, you can get it on pretty much anything. Even the Vita has a version of it. But when it came out, it was an extremely difficult to find Xbox original game that was basically crapped out by EA spitefully. They had a deteriorating relationship with Oddworld inhabitants, and they basically only released the game because they had to legally. And the game was never really meant for most people to be able to have played it. And when it came out, I was one of the very few people that I knew of that had played it. And it is a very well-written, well-paced game. And it also has a Western theme, and I tend to really like Western themed things.
Yeah, I think I saw that speedrun actually at Summer Games Done Quick 2016.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game. I still haven't replayed it for a number of reasons, just because I generally don't replay games. But this game is one of my favorites, and if I could play this game with somebody, you know, like maybe a significant other in some capacity in the future, you know, if I had a girlfriend that enjoyed watching me play games, I would love to show her this game, or at least have her play it, you know, one of the two, because I just want to show it to somebody, you know what I mean? It's just when I played it, it was one of the best gaming experiences I ever had. I really love that game, and it's underrated for sure. Even though you can get it now, it's pretty easy to get. So
yeah, like I didn't play that much of Stranger's Wrath because I got it on Vita, and I didn't like the controls that much. But that's besides the point. So I would agree with you with the Portal 2. I was trying to think of what game I would want to, and I can't think of many. I mean, I think any game that has like a moment in it that's a story that you're just like, holy crap. Like I guess the specific moment of Portal 2 would be the end. The very last boss.
That was great.
And I think like that's what it is more for me, more so than like a whole game. It's just certain moments of the game that I might want to redo, like pretend that I didn't see them, or maybe get my mind erased so I didn't see them. But it'd be more the moments more so than whole games. But other than the Portal 2 one, I can't think of any. I know there's tons of that out there though.
Okay.
Nice.
All right, so I guess we have time for one last question. This one I think might be more brief. This is from Andy Upheim. What film have you seen that made you so mad you stopped it, or if you were in the theater, walk out of the theater and you have not finished it? I don't think
yeah,
go
I'll
ahead.
take this one actually.
Okay.
It doesn't go with the last one because I have finished it, but when I saw Transformers 4, I walked out halfway through the movie.
Wow.
I mean, there's a story with that too. It was a drive-in theater. It was the second movie. The first one we watched was, I think, How to Train Your Dragon 2, which was a good movie. And then I saw Transformers 4, and I was already tired, and I'm just like, I can't sit here anymore and watch this, so I just left.
Well, technically, you didn't walk out; you drove out. Right?
True. But I think that's the only movie that I walked out of a theater, drove out of a theater. But I did end up watching it because I figure I should watch it, even though it's a shitty movie.
I don't think I've ever walked out of the theater. Like, I usually... I mean, like, in your case, you have, like, different reasons for it. But, like, usually I go to movies that I really expect to like. And it's... At this point, I very rarely go to the theater anyway. So maybe I could think of something that I turned off because I was bored in the middle. But I've never been made mad by a movie. Like, fuck this movie. Like, I've never really had that experience with something I've chosen to watch.
I have never walked out of a movie because I always feel like I can maybe the movie can redeem itself or something to that degree, even though I logically know it probably won't. But I have a kind of an equivalent to this. So on opening day, me and my friends, actually, Kurt Collada of HG 101 fame, and his group of friends that I meet up with pretty frequently. We went to go see Dragon Ball Evolution on opening day. And we knew we were going to hate it. We just didn't realize how much we were going to hate it.
Wow.
Which is an interesting experience. When a movie offends you so badly and you knew it was going to offend you and disappoint you already, it beat my expectation in that regard, which is hilarious. I think, like, I've never been like expecting a bad movie and then got one way worse than I even like fathomed, which is a fantastic experience. It's like going to see like a decent movie and finding out it was freaking great, like Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah.
Like Cloverfield Lane was like one of the best surprises of last year. Like, fantastic movie. Well, this one, like, it's like I know this was gonna be shit, but I didn't like think it was gonna make me hate my life. So we already went into it with, like, you know, having drank a couple beers, and like this was one of the very few movies where like we were passing around a flask during it, and like people got wasted during this because they didn't want to watch it. So like I fell asleep like a half hour in, like, and to this day I still haven't seen the movie because I woke up in the last 5 minutes, and and I think it was better for that. Like I was drinking on purpose during the movie so I didn't have to watch it, and that's like the equivalent of walking out of it. I mean, really, like that movie is criminally bad and terrible to its source material. I guess the only other equivalent would be The Last Airbender. Is probably like,
that's what I've heard. Yeah.
The only other thing that even rivals it in how poorly it treats the source material.
Sort of my speed in the sense that like I've never gone to see the M. Night Shyamalan version of The Last Airbender, and I wouldn't. I would never go see that movie to walk out on it in the first place because I know what a train wreck it is. Personally, I've never walked out of a movie because it was bad. Like Vyse, I would probably just take a nap because I'm already sitting down and I'm
exactly.
old. You know? The only movie I've ever left and
rest my weary knobby knees.
All that stomping, you know, it really like wears the legs out.
Yeah.
So
it's hard carrying this beard around. Weighs down my skull.
I did shave. It helps a little bit.
That'll last.
It eases the burden. So I did walk out of the room because we all went to a midnight showing of it, and we all got drunk beforehand, or many of us got drunk, and I got a little bit too drunk, and I went to the bathroom to throw up. As if anybody's ever been to a live, you know, a showing of The Room, you know, the bad movie, you bring spoons and you throw them at the screen because that's just a thing that you do because there's spoons in the background of the movie.
Yeah, there's just like there's like a framed picture like of spoons. It's like, what? So many people just throw spoons over.
I love these spoons so much. They were just like spoons to me.
So while I was throwing up in the bathroom, this is actually I think the last time in my life I threw up drunk. It's only happened to me like 3 or 4 times, and I usually try to avoid that.
Of course,
because it is extremely unpleasant. One of my friends threw spoons at me in the stall, like, and I blamed Vyse for it for like years because I blamed Vyse for everything.
That was Perry,
and it was, and I never, and I used to blame you for this to his face, and he would get embarrassed about it. And it wasn't until I blamed you for it in front of you while he was also there that he finally confessed, because it was like the telltale spoon. Like, it was beating and making him feel guilty for
Vyse
like
wasn't
ages.
a dick at all. Vyse the Redeemed.
Well, you know, like that was another movie that you fell asleep in, if I recall correctly, and I just assumed that...
And what wasn't the problem? Weren't they like actual like metal spoons too?
No, they were plastic spoons.
They were plastic.
We bought a lot of plastic spoons, and we took
at
them
Penn
to
Station.
At Penn Station, that one store. They must have been like, that must have been really funny too, because there were like 3 or 4 of us that bought like boxes of only spoons, like no forks. Like, what are they doing?
We bought that place out of spoons, and we brought them all to the restaurant that we ate at, and like. I was worried that the host would think that we were like filming a candid camera sketch or something, because we were like sitting there in the booth getting our coats, and like we had to check some of the bags of spoons both there and also when we went to Forbidden Planet before we went to the movie, and it's like is this your bag of spoons? No, it's my bag of plastic.
That's
spoons.
right. Yeah.
You were the spoony one.
So yeah, I've never walked out of a movie. I recently rage quit Mighty Number 9 because it's terrible. Like, that was like a week ago.
Oh, you know, I
only played it in the first place because Pyro mentions that he was never intending to ever beat it, and I was like, I'll take that challenge up and try to play it. I beat the first 2 bosses, and I was like, this game is just the worst.
Now, actually, I do have to give a shout out to Mighty Number 9, because as mediocre as it is, the speedrun of it at AGDQ was particularly good. Like, that guy's gameplay was just expert. It was kind of amazing to watch.
That's why the game is so frustrating. It's basically designed to be speedrun, and if you don't know how to speedrun it, you just die.
Yeah.
You run into spikes.
Well, that's the whole thing. He was playing on Mania mode where you're not allowed to get hit by anything ever, and he died like 2 or 3 times in the whole run. It was like, wow.
Did you watch his interview?
No, I didn't.
So you know how some speedruns have a single segment run where you play the best you can from start to finish, and also a multi-segment run where you take your best segments.
Yeah.
Over the course of you record over and over again until you get a best segment, and then you repeat.
Yeah.
It's almost like a task. Mighty Number 9 does not have a single segment run, because the personal best of the guy who also owns the world record, it has a crash in it. Like, the game is not stable enough to run single segment.
Wow. Okay.
So there is no category for single segment Mighty Number 9. It is that unstable. It is that like poorly programmed.
That's madness.
It cannot be replicably ran consistently from beginning to end.
But by the way, one thing, this wasn't the interview of the runner, but he did mention that he was before considering having a donation incentive where they let the whole 4-hour credits play, and during the credits the runners try beating as many games as they can.
Oh, that's amazing.
It didn't happen.
Oh, that's great.
That's a great idea.
It didn't happen, but that would have been hilarious.
That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
has anybody ever rage quit a book?
Oh, wow.
I know the book you're talking about.
No, but I came close. I actually have come close, and my dad did rage quit it. It was Stephen King's Lisey story. It was just like, if you only take the good parts, like, there's some really good content in there, but it just drags for so long, and the whole book is just like the wife of this dead author, like her husband finally died, and she's like sorting his stuff, and the bad guy of the book is like trying to get his husband's or her husband's like old notes because he's like a super fan to the point where it's scary, like Misery. But like so much of the book is just her reminiscing about her husband, and like what bothered me though, it's kind of a little thing, but sometimes surprise to OldManStompy, sometimes little things bother me more than they should. But like for example, in Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles, the word preternatural comes up often enough where it's very distracting, and it gets to the point where I like hate it every time I see it. Lisey's story did something like that. Like, her husband was this really creative author, so he would have nicknames for things, power lines, or telephone poles, or as he called them, alien recharging stations, but there were so many of those. Basic noun, or as her husband called it, some dumbass name. I'm like, oh my god, where's the story? And same goes for Moby Dick, but with Moby Dick, it was more satirical, and I didn't get it. Like, Moby Dick intentionally distracted itself all the time, and it's funny if you think about it, but when I was reading it, I was on a plane, and I was frustrated, and I'm like, god damn it. So, like, that was more me missing the joke, but for Lisey's story, it just drove me crazy, but I powered through it, and my dad didn't. And my dad does not rage quit books, by the way.
I almost rage quit El Topo when we were watching that.
That was tough. The first half was so good, and the second half dragged.
Oh, the second half is just garbage.
The first half was the coolest.
I can't watch it.
Yeah, the first half was basically what inspired Suda51's No More Heroes, actually. A bunch of really quirky, eccentric bosses in a row. But the second half just kind of turned into a Jesus story, but there wasn't really anything
over the skull constantly.
But the thing was, he didn't do anything with it. It's just like, now it's a Jesus story, and I'm like, okay, it's like whatever.
We talked about this a little bit during the MagFest special, but if I could have walked out of Pass-Through, I would have, but there were too many of you idiots in the way.
Yeah, you were on the wrong side of the room.
And I was like really hoping that somebody would eventually start a conversation about something other than the fucking movie.
No, we actively suppressed that.
One of our friends kept saying, "Don't speak when Breen is on the screen."
No, the thing with the Neil Breen movies is you actually have to be invested in them, because if there's casual conversation, you really are.
But that's impossible. There's nothing to get invested in. It's so bad.
But that's why it's funny.
That's not funny.
It's actually
hilarious how stupid that is.
Having you being that mad at it is actually pretty funny.
Oh, by the way,
I'm hoping it's entertaining.
By the way,
you
know
what?
what?
Who are listening to me, like just get so mad at this terrible movie.
That was pretty great.
This poor guy put his heart and soul into, and we sit and laugh at it.
Yep.
You know?
But by the way,
the whole thing is such a tragedy.
No, you know what? Not anymore. It's his fourth movie. It's like, come on. No, but at this point, I actually can throw in one last thing, sort of a bonus story. This isn't me, but it was my parents. My dad is very much into National Lampoon, like Animal House and stuff like that. And my mom is not. She's not the wacky comedy kind of person. But, like, when they were dating, my dad would just drag her to those movies, and she'd, like, roll her eyes through them. I guess it worked out, apparently. But, like, at one point, they went to see American Werewolf in London because it was one of those cases where it had a misleading trailer. And my dad's like, it's made by the National Lampoon guys. This is going to be great. And my mom's like, whatever. So they're watching the movie, and they get to the first part where you barely see the werewolf. You know, they don't give a big reveal until the very end, but there's clearly a werewolf attack, and this is the first one of those. So it's the part where the two buddies are walking along the moors, and they'd gotten this warning, like, at this one bar where this guy's just like, and remember, stay off the moors. And they're like, okay. So, but they're walking like all over the moors, and they kind of don't realize it. And all of a sudden, one of the buddies is just like, wait a minute, didn't the guy back there tell us to stay off the moors? And they're like, oops. And they keep walking. And then the friend gets massacred, and like, my parents were not expecting this at all. Like, it was like a surprisingly violent scene, like, maybe not by today's standards, but it was just kind of like, oh, like, it's actually a horror movie, oh god. And that's why they walked out. At this point, my dad's seen the movie a bunch of times, but like,
it's actually one of my favorite movies.
That date did not go well.
It's actually one of my favorite movies of all time.
It's a great movie, but they were expecting stupid comedy, and it turned out it was a very dark comedy.
It has some of the best practical effects of any movie of all time.
No, it does, but the point was they weren't expecting a freaking slaughter scene, and that's what they got.
Yeah.
It was like, oh no.
That's a shame. That's a shame. You know, a lot of times movies thrive on expectation, right? Or play with it, and it's a shame that, you know, your parents went in expecting one thing and got like the total.
Well, yeah, they went out like on a date expecting to see a stupid comedy that my mom probably already wouldn't have cared much for, and then this happened. That it's like, oh no, you know, date over.
Conversely, my parents walked out of 2 films while dating. The Exorcist. Which,
oh God!
You know, how can you blame them? And, you know, it's one of the best horror movies of all time, and it's disturbing in just what the events in it. Yeah. Which is great. But,
your mother sucks cocks in hell. Great.
Yeah, and the way
romantic
crab walks down the stairs and all that jazz.
Yeah.
But also there's a movie called Deer Hunter. That like deals heavily with PTSD and the Vietnam War, and also like lots of suicide themes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so my mom was like, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
But yeah. But
to use my parents as an example too. So my whole family at one point used to be big fans of the Gilmore Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that show was apparently popular enough to get a revival on Netflix.
Yep.
Really popular show,
and it's just the characters are like the epitome of white privilege, and they never seem to learn anything, and they never seem to grow. So by like the 6th season, like all of us just quit the show. I just can't stand even like looking at them anymore. my dad actually asked me if I bothered or if my wife was interested in watching it while we were out in Chicago, and I was like, why? And I feel validated too, because I've seen so many articles on Facebook lately about how like Rory Gilmore is like the worst character on television right now. So.
Oh jeez.
Speaking of what was your book, OldManStompy, that you had in mind when you brought up that question?
I was just curious. I wanted to explore other venues of fiction. I don't recall a book that I've rage quit personally.
I thought you rage quit one of the Hitchhiker Guide books, book 4 in particular, right?
No, that's. I don't think that's me.
Oh, okay.
I don't recall rage quitting a Hitchhiker book. You might be thinking of someone else.
Okay.
I can see why people would rage quit at various points in the Hitchhiker's Guide series, because like they're so tonally different after the trilogy ends.
Yeah, I bought the collector's kind of edition, the nice bound edition of all 4, thinking like, you know what, or all 5 of them, you know what, I'm gonna finish reading all of them. And I got through the 3rd book, and I started reading the 4th, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't do this.
Oh, so it was you. Okay, it was you, Pyro.
I know, I did end up finishing it, but yeah.
Like the 4th book is made poorly on purpose.
and like the 5th book, it isn't necessarily made poorly, but it's like I'm so tired of making these books, I'm never making another one again.
Actually, the 5th one to me is a big return to form and is really good on its own. But
it is, but it's definitely like if Douglas Adams wanted to make sure that he never had to write another Hitchhiker's book, that was the way to go.
Yeah, that's true. Especially the way he ends it. But the 4th book is a practical joke on his entire fan base, and he only wrote it because he had the insane amount of pressure to write a 4th book, and he was like, well, this is what you're getting. If you wanted a 4th book, read this piece of shit.
and he's dead now, and they're still trying to push Hitchhiker's Guide books out. So
actually, like, now that the book was finished, I heard The Princess Bride 2, because you do have a couple of chapters of The Princess Bride 2, and I heard it started to do that, just make fun of it, the genre in itself, and do like things that made people like legitimately angry, but if you look at it like as a medium rather than like as a continuation of the story, like it's pretty funny just like how bad it gets like on purpose.
I've heard the second Forrest Gump book is also like
there's a
not
second
really worth
one
reading. Yes, there's a second Forrest
Gump
book.
Yes. And the first
Gump Incorporated, I think it's called. I haven't
read
it.
There's the author has like kind of a love-hate relationship with the character because the book is a lot different in tone from the movie. The character is very similar, and the premise is very similar. It's just like the characters going through like important events in history and famous people in history. But in the book, he's like kind of a terrible person.
That's what I heard. Yeah,
and in Forrest Gump, the movie is celebrated as one of the most heartwarming main characters of all time. He's beloved. As being, essentially what people should be, even though he's initially introduced as somebody who's simple, right? As somebody who doesn't get the world. He actually gets the world better than almost everybody else, and that's why he's so beloved. But like imagine having like a specific vision and then somebody totally flipping it on its axis, and being really good at it, so much so that it takes over your vision, like it eclipses it entirely, and then you make a sequel that kind of like what's that?
Well, it kind of happened with The Princess Bride, right? Like
really, I didn't read the book.
Even the author I think considers the movie version to be the definitive version.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I just think it's
I heard that about Fight Club as well.
Yeah. I think it's just funny that when they then you release a sequel to a book that nobody read, but people are pining for a sequel to the movie, so they read the book as the sequel to the movie.
Nope.
Without reading the first book, it's like imagine what you would do to people.
That's hilarious.
It's really funny that how an author could be like that. So
that's pretty good.
How about you, Pyro? Did you have anything that you like actively walked out on or anything?
Well, he mentioned Transformers 4, but like
he drove out of the movie.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, that's much faster than any of us walked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can't think of anything else that I just stopped in the middle of it.
I liked. I think I did that with TMNT.
Oh, actually, TMNT, really?
Yeah.
I actually didn't mind that movie.
No, not TMNT. The Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, no, I don't think I didn't even mind that movie that much.
Yeah, I kind of just checked out. I didn't walk out, but we were in the drive-in at the time, and I kind of just did my own thing, played cell phone games and stuff.
But I'll make this part really quick just because I've mentioned it before, but I rage quit Alone in the Dark for the Wii because it plays poorly, and even if it didn't, it's just not a good game. Like, if you look at it on the 360 or the PS3, it's like, this is not good. Like, now picture that with
Stone Keep 2.
What?
Well,
Stone Keep 2 was more funny. Like, I wouldn't rage quit
fuck
that.
Off.
Like
that game could fuck off.
But Alone in the Dark, like, it's a crappy game. Now picture it with controls that like kind of work because they're like bad Wii motion controls. That's it. Period.
It's time to rage quit this podcast because the ending is meandering and doesn't provide any resolution to the character arcs established in the last 2 hours.
Until next time, everyone. We did a lot of damage today.
Bye. Well, yeah, we should wrap up here, but once again, hopefully people like the new format. We'll keep developing it, and I really appreciate the support as always. And please like us, subscribe on the YouTube page, subscribe on the SoundCloud page, and give us thumbs up and likes and all that jazz. 5-star ratings on our iTunes page. All right,
3-star ratings on Yelp. That's okay. I don't really need to read the Yelp ratings.
You wouldn't want to eat any of the food here anyway. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you next time. Okay.
Till next time, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
Good night.